going to Mount York Campground. It's a free campground supplied by the Blue Mountains Council. It's in the Mount Victoria area. It's the westernmost part of the Blue Mountains Council area. It's a very beautiful spot. I'm gonna reach the camping ground pretty soon. I'm a bit, let's say, concerned that I might find place or might not find place there because it's a free campground without reservation, first come, first served. So the reason why I'm here is because it's a beautiful spot with amazing sceneries and some very interesting walks. It's also got a lot of history. So I've never been here before, so it's going to be a first time. So let's find out together. So I finally arrived at Mount York Campground and was very impressed by what I saw. Firstly, I found a very nice spot for myself and my vehicle, so that's great. I think it's perfect. It is quite busy here, but yeah, I found a spot. So very impressed because number one, it's spotless. It's on a ridge. It's amazing. Like, I'll show you some images, some aerial images from the drone. The spot is really gorgeous. There is a long drop toilet. There are bins at our disposal. There's no papers on the ground. It's all super clean. There are also a number of historical monuments. Mainly there is a pavilion and also an obelisk which commemorate several things. One of them is Governor Macquarie, who actually commissioned the Great Western Highway, I think it's called, which crosses the Blue Mountains from Sydney to Bathurst. And also the team who built this road, which was under the leadership of a certain gentleman called Coxs, and he had 30 laborers at his disposal. Sorry, not laborers, he had a team of 30 people at his disposal. I believe about 20 were forced laborers, so convicts, and there were 8 soldiers and 2 Aboriginal scouts. And with just this very small team of 30 people, they managed to build the road, 160 plus kilometers road through rough terrain. They managed to build it in just 6 months. So they started mid 1814 and they finished in January 1815. So that is quite a feat, because I don't need to tell you how rough the terrain here in Blue Mountains is with all the mountain gorges. The weather is relentless, especially in summertime, and January is summertime in Australia. And then the wildlife, where pretty much everything wants and can kill you, especially the snakes and the spiders. So 1814, 1815, in those days, no hospitals probably, no anti-venom, no advanced medicines, so if you copped it bad. Fortunately for the team, I don't believe there were any casualties, like mortal casualties, so they all survived. And at the end of the works, I understand that all the forced laborers, all the convicts, were actually granted their freedom, so that's a good outcome. Well, it's 7:30 in the morning and I've started my walk, which is the Coxs Road, return via Locklier's Road. It's a 10k walk, about 4 hours, and yeah, starting early in the morning is my favorite for several reasons. The first is the temperature. It's nice and fresh at the morning. I'm still wearing a jumper. It must be below 20 degrees Celsius, but by this afternoon it will be mid-30s, so that's number one. Number two is having the track to myself. Being the first on the track, I might fall upon some wildlife which is undisturbed. Sometimes snakes like lying on the road to sun themselves, which is always a bonus. And just not having anybody in front of you or nobody behind you, and hearing voices and just enjoying nature and having it all to myself is a huge bonus. So that's why I like to start tracks nice and early before anybody arrives. So one of the first things I notice is a split in the road, Coxs Descent 1815 and Coxs Alternative Ascent. I'm going to take the Coxs Descent 1815. I understand it was quite steep, actually too steep for certain carriages or vehicles in the time, so they had to make that alternative ascent or descent, that alternative road. So I'll start here and see where it goes. Wow, so there's already an amazing viewpoint over here, which we'll go and check out. Starts nice. Check this out. So peaceful. So what's nice about this walk, it's pretty broken up with a lot of rocks, but there are steps carved in the rock. I'm not quite sure if these are original steps from 1815. Let's just give you a view. So it's sandstone, so they're pretty easy to carve into. But yeah, this is 1815. There's a plaque over here. And what does it say? So, Coxs Road, 1815, original hand-cut stone gutter. So you can see the gutter. Yeah, and that all was done in 6 months with hand tools, so chisels and co. So there's another plaque over here. And what does it say? This plaque marks were made to allow Governor Macquarie's vehicles to pass over the Blue Mountains in 1850. This what? These pick marks. I'm not quite sure where those pick marks are, but apparently Governor Macquarie's carriage had to pass through this point in 1815. So I just took this little side walk. I'm suspecting it's going to take me to another viewpoint. We'll soon find out, because there was a warning sign for cliffs, so we'll try not to fall over the cliff. Wow. Yeah, so another viewpoint. So what's quite amazing about this walk, and I've just started, is you have these amazing viewpoints with real cliffs, and there's no barriers. Australia being famous for being a nanny state, which means a state where everything is checked, you know, you've been protected against yourself. It's actually quite amazing that you can have these places still around without barriers. I'm happy for it. It's quite interesting, you have caves here and there along the road. I guess that in Aboriginal times these caves might have been used. They seem like pretty good shelters. So apparently this site contained like a bridge-like, there was a bridge-like structure, more of a stone filling to cross a gully, and apparently there's still marks left. Oh, here you go. You can actually see that this is not natural. So these rocks were carved in order to make a bridge-like structure to cross a gully. So here it does look like a well-formed path or road. So I guess this must be pretty much original. You can see it's quite wide. It's got stones as its, as part of its structure. So it's not just a little mountain path. This is really what looks to me like an old road. So another very typical Australian phenomenon is all this bark you see here on the ground. So normal trees, when they lose their bark, they can actually die because the circulation goes through their bark. But here you have these eucalypti, Australian trees, and they lose their bark on a pretty much constant basis, annual basis definitely. You can see the top part there has no bark at all. And you can see how the bark gradually comes off, peels off, which is for protection basically. By shedding their bark, they shed their parasites, and also it creates kindling, which means it creates a fire starter. And Australian bush needs to be regenerated by fire every now and then. The Aboriginals knew that. The white settlers had to learn it the hard way. That if you leave this kindling on the ground for too long, it piles up and you get those crazy bushfires. A lot of Australian bush actually, the pods, the seeds actually need fire to germinate. Here's another tree that went down, but this one's older, and actually you can see that this tree was burned, and I suspect these were from the bushfires we had. What was it? I think it was 2019 or 18. Eucalypts don't necessarily die when they get burned, especially if their bark gets burnt. You can see, actually it's an example over here. You can see this eucalypt is charred, and the funny thing is that you come across, after a bushfire, you come across forests full of charred leaves, and if you come back 6 months later, you'll see that green sprouts start growing from the charred trees. So we're definitely in the valley now, and so the track just goes along paddocks. So there are actually kangaroos in that field. You can't see them probably on the image, but they're there. It's an interesting track over here, which seems to be that of a dog. By the size, I'm gonna say it's probably either a domestic dog or a dingo. I know that there are dingoes in the Blue Mountains, so yeah, perhaps there are dingoes around here. Okay, so I'm a bit confused here, as I believe the big road behind me here is Lockyer's Road, but it's no signpost or anything like that. There is the other road, Coxs Road, where I come from, keeps on going along here, but I'm thinking I need to take this bend, which would take me back to the campground, and that would be the original track I wanted to take. So this path is very overgrown, and I'm wondering whether there won't be a point where this path will actually stop being a path, in which case it would be a strong indication that I'm on the wrong track. I'm gonna keep following it for now. There is something of a path, so yeah, just keep following for now. So this is the stuff I've been walking on for the last few minutes, which is a so-called path, I think. And I was getting pretty worried, as I'm in no mood to get rescued because of being lost. But now these bollards appeared, which means that there is some kind of track here, so I might be on the right course. I'll just follow these for as far as they go. So this is where it gets interesting again. So I've got these indicators, path indicators behind me, as you might see, and I've come again to a fork in the road. So basically you have what seems to be the path, but I walked and it seems to come to a dead end, and then you have these road markers over there, which sounds very encouraging. There's just one slight problem, and that is that there is a stream and no bridge. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to cross it with dry feet, but I'm definitely going to give it a shot, and I'm going to follow this path with the indicators, because that seems to be my best chance. Alright, so the climbing has begun. I just hope I'm on the right track, because otherwise it's a lot of climbing for nothing. Well, I made it back up the top of the ridge again via the Coxs trail. The climb back up is a bit full on, so definitely not for the faint-hearted, but the whole walk itself is not technically very difficult, and I very much recommend it. Anyways, it's just short of 11:30. It's nice and warm outside, and it's time for me to go back to my car and crack open a nice cold Coke Zero. Cheers.